So you're a part of the psychedelic research team at Imperial College London. Perhaps we can start with a bit about the kind of research that you're currently working on and your role in the team.
Yes, so we've just recently finished Psychedelic 2, which was a kind of mechanism trial comparing a standard antidepressant to psilocybin. So it was a randomized control trial. So one arm of the participants would get 2 high doses of psilocybin plus placebo, and the other arm would get a very small dose of psilocybin plus escitalopram. And it was basically a direct comparison with brain imaging and brain scans afterwards to see what the difference was in terms of shifting depression. I worked also on Psychedelic 1, which was just really a trial looking at the efficacy of psilocybin to treat depression.
Right, without the brain imaging in Psychedelic 1, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so if we look into kind of the origins of this, for anyone who's not kind of up to speed, would you say that the studies at Johns Hopkins first looking at psilocybin, being the active compound in magic mushrooms, looking at that for end-of-life anxiety and depression, is that where the signal was first detected that these might be a kind of novel treatment for depression?
Well, I suppose that the signal was way back in the 50s and 60s where a lot of therapeutic work first happened. It was really only the legal guillotine of psychedelics being rescheduled that stopped all that work, that body of work continuing. So in a way, we're just kind of picking up from where they left off, trying to demonstrate that psychedelics have therapeutic potential. And in order to do that, we need to do the trials so that it can be rescheduled, and then the potential for mental health uses will hopefully then unfold.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the original signal anecdotally was in the indigenous use, a long time ago. But then, So with Psychedelic 1, I guess the aim was within the kind of Western medical model to do a kind of controlled experiment, right, to prove that this is a powerful kind of therapeutic modality for depression. And can you maybe tell us a bit about what the first trial found?
Yes, so we were treating people with treatment-resistant depression. So it meant that they would have tried therapy, antidepressants, lots of they would have, and they would have had depression from 10 to 20 years. So basically, all other forms of therapy had really failed them. And what we found is that. I think there was maybe one non-responder, but on the whole, it shifted people's depression quite considerably up to the 6-week mark, and for some people on to 6 months. And then after 6 months, some people's depression would come back. So, I mean, that's hugely transformative in and of itself. But I suppose, which is why the second trial has 2 doses to see what's the sweet spot, how many doses does a person need to really do the work and shift their depression. And I'm not sure. I think 1 dose or 2 doses can be hugely transformative for some individuals, but for other people they may need consecutive doses. But I suppose it's a different model of mental health. It's one where you take a drug occasionally rather than every day.
Right, and for some people, as you say, one session can be enough, right, to kind of address these issues. And it seems a kind of fundamentally different model, because instead of potentially trying to soothe or suppress symptoms with an antidepressant, you're kind of, is it right, would you say that people are tending to kind of move towards healing whatever the kind of underlying issues are, rather than just looking at the symptom level?
Yes, completely. So it's about fostering a curiosity towards people's internal intrapsychic worlds and going to the roots of the depression rather than managing symptoms. And I suppose that's the difference in terms of paradigm.
Right, and so with Psychedelic 2, you mentioned were the main difference is experimenting with 2 doses as opposed to 1, and also the brain imaging?
And I suppose it was a direct comparison with an SSRI or an antidepressant. So to kind of pitch them, even though I suppose, you know, traditionally you normally get the antidepressant, but not necessarily the therapy. So it wasn't a completely even playing field, but it was to pitch them against each other and to see which was more effective. I suppose that was the idea of the trial largely.
And now that it's wrapped up, is it something you can talk about now, that what you found, or does it, you have to wait for the publications to come out?
Yeah, the publications and the results are in the pipeline, but I think it on the whole it looks pretty good for psilocybin. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, great. I mean, I think for people who work in this area, I think I've got the impression for a lot of people, it's getting these papers out is kind of just putting numbers to what is already known. Kind of perhaps like if you're in the room with people undergoing these experiences, the healing seems kind of profound, but of course science isn't anecdotal. You can't just say, trust me, I've seen it, it's great. So maybe it's not a surprise to me that you're saying there's no controversial results coming out, I guess, here.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I mean that maybe the one thing that will be interesting is that people on escitalopram will maybe have done okay as well too, but I suppose that's mitigated by the care and the experience they've had that they wouldn't normally get, you know, from the doctor. So even though they're taking escitalopram, they're getting a lot of our time and energy and efforts. So there's something about the level of care as well, which we're delivering. So maybe that's no great surprise to some degree, but yeah, it's interesting that, you know, placebo or low dose experiences can be equally quite, you know, powerful.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Not as powerful as psilocybin.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it definitely, you're not setting a low bar for yourself, it seems, right? It's not like you're just giving people antidepressants and saying, you know, go home, versus, you know, I guess the confound with psilocybin is they're also receiving attention and care, as you say. So it's good that
completely
the signal will be a fair test.
Yeah.